Huh? What are you doing in my swamp?
Hello everybody, this is Ogre Boy, and I'm going to be doing my review for the 1997 movie Scream 2. So, this movie picks up 2 years after the events of the first movie, and Sydney is now in college, and her and her friends are being targeted by a copycat killer using the Ghostface killer disguise, and Dewey and Gale show up at her college to try to help her solve the mystery of who is doing all these killings at her college campus and killing her fellow students and friends. Once again, they have to figure out who the killer is. This is a pretty good sequel to the original movie. I always have kind of thought this one was a little bit underrated. I really like this one, and for being a movie that was fast-tracked, they like released it within less than a year of the first movie. That came out like really fast and everything. I think the script wasn't even finished being written by the time they started filming it and everything. They were like just adding stuff on as they went on in the filming process. I think it turned out to be a really good movie. Turned out really well. You can see a little bit of the problems in it, but for the most part, I think it turned out pretty good. It kind of has a more of the same vibe to it a little bit, but at the same time, it's different enough because of the college setting, and it's not set in Woodsboro like the first movie was. And the cast, I think, are all once again really great in here, especially Neve Campbell as Sydney. I think she's once again excellent in the role, and David Arquette and Courtney Cox are once again great in their roles, and Jamie Kennedy as Randy steals the show once again, and everything, which that's one of the biggest negatives I have in this movie, is they kill Randy off halfway through the movie, and he's like one of the best characters. He's like a fan favorite, and he's always been one of my favorite characters too, because he's kind of like his character is kind of like the audience for and everything. Like, he's the one that's the big movie buff and into the horror stuff and everything. Like, he's really good in these movies, and I hate that they killed him off so quickly in the franchise. I kind of wish they would have at least left him in here for a few of the sequels and everything. But and you also get Liev Schreiber back as Cotton Weary. He had a small little cameo in the first one, but he has a much bigger role in this movie, and I think he was once again really good. And the big twist with the killers and stuff was pretty cool. We got Mickey, played by Timothy Olyphant, who doesn't really get enough screen time at the end of this movie. During the climax, he's in there for a couple minutes and everything, and then we find out that Miss Loomis, who is pretending to be Debbie Salt, this news reporter, is the other killer, and Miss Loomis is Billy Loomis's mother. First movie that we hear a lot about in that first movie. He talks about her throughout the whole movie, and she was like his motivation for being a killer and everything. She's wanting revenge on Sydney for killing her son and for her mom destroying their family. And I like Miss Loomis. I think she was a pretty good villain and everything. It kind of came out of nowhere, and I remember the first time I saw this movie, it just totally took me by surprise that's what they did with it. I didn't see it coming at all. And Laurie Metcalf plays her. She does a really great job. I love Laurie Metcalf and the stuff that I've seen her in. She's great on Roseanne and the Connors as Aunt Jackie, one of my favorite characters, although I like her a lot more on Roseanne than I did the Connors. She's not quite as funny nowadays as she used to be back then. But she's really great as Miss Loomis and everything. She was a pretty good villain. But this movie does have some issues. I think that Dewey should have died. Like, the scene where you think Dewey dies and stuff is really, really well done. It was kind of an emotional scene and everything. And at the end of the movie, at the last minute, they reveal that he's still alive somehow. He survived being stabbed multiple times, and to me, it's just kind of a little cop-out move. I wish they wouldn't have made him survive, and I didn't like that they kind of fixed his relationship with Gail at the beginning of the movie. They kind of had gone their separate ways because of her book that she wrote and everything, and she like, Gail is just really unlikable in this one too, just like she was in the first one. She's one of those characters that everybody loves. I've never been a big fan of Gail, and I really don't like the relationship between her and Dewey. To me, it just, the way she screws everybody over, and then she gets that little redemption again at the end of this one. And I don't really like their relationship, the way it was just, to me it felt forced, like that they just put it in there because they had to have them back together and everything. I thought that was a little forced, but as far as the other new characters in here go, you got Cece, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, who is awesome. I love Sarah Michelle Gellar, and I wish she was in the movie more. She's one of the first ones out of these new characters that gets killed off, but she's great in the little bit of time we do get her in. And Jerry O'Connell, who plays Derek, who is Sydney's new boyfriend, which I thought was kind of weird that they would make her have a new boyfriend this quick in the series, but it also does play a good part in the series. He plays a good part in this movie, because Sydney doesn't 100% trust him and everything, because of the stuff with Billy, which I think was good for her character arc, and it makes sense why she wouldn't trust him. But at the same time, after everything she went through in that first movie, I don't see her wanting to move on and just be in a relationship that quick and everything. I wish they kind of would have showed more of the trauma she had to deal with after that. And they do a pretty good job showing it in this movie, but I think they could have shown it a little bit more. But they do kind of play it out a little bit more in 3, if I remember right. And everything, but I did like Derek. I thought he was a really likable character, although he has one of the cringiest scenes in the entire franchise when he does that really corny song and stuff when he's singing to Sydney in the cafeteria. It's just very, very corny and cringy, but also at the same time I kind of like it. I think it's kind of amusing. And stuff like his singing is really bad, and Jerry O'Connell is just, he's one of those actors I've always really liked. He has a really likable charm to him, so having him in here just another little bonus. He's kind of like Matthew Lillard to me in the first movie. I've always thought Matthew Lillard was underrated, and I think Jerry O'Connell is a little underrated too, and there's just something about him that I like and everything. And I could say the same thing about Sarah Michelle Gellar. I've always thought she was underrated too. I think all of the cast are good in this movie. The opening scene at the movie theater, though, was probably the one thing about the movie I didn't like, although I will say it's better than the opening in the next 2 movies and everything. But that whole opening scene with Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett Smith, it was okay. I didn't really like that. They were going to see the Stab movie, which is based on Gail Weathers' book, and Jada Pinkett Smith's character just kind of gets on my nerves. She's okay, but she kind of is annoying. She's one of those characters that talks really loud during the movie and all that. And I thought it was kind of annoying, and also I kind of felt like the two of them leave the movie at the beginning to go get snacks, and Omar Epps' character goes to the bathroom, and that's where he gets killed and stuff. I thought that was kind of dumb. That was more of a pet peeve for me. I just don't get why people would they'd go into the movie and then leave five minutes into it to go get snacks and stuff when they could have easily stopped by there on the way in. It's just that's just like a little personal pet peeve that annoys me in this movie. I don't know what it is about it, but and honestly, I don't see why a theater would be giving away these costumes and stuff and having everybody dress up as Ghostface. Also thought that was kind of a silly and dumb, but I did think that, like, the way they shot the stab movie inside the movie was kind of interesting, and you see all these different actors that are playing the characters from the first movie, and the way they reshot some of the scenes from that first movie, and with terrible written dialogue and everything. It's kind of amusing and really well done, though. I mean, if you look at movies that are based on murder and stuff like that, they do a good job of making it an adaptation of that first movie. I thought that was kind of cool too, though. And I kind of wouldn't mind, like, seeing like a short film or something of the first Stab movie, but I don't think they ever did it, so probably never would be able to get that. But yeah, it was cool seeing which actors they had playing the characters. Like, Luke Wilson was playing Billy, and Tori Spelling was playing Sydney, which is a reference to that first movie, because she said that someone like her would play Sydney in a movie if they ever did make a movie about her. And Heather Graham plays Casey Becker, so I thought that was kind of cool, and everything. But that opening, it was good, but it doesn't have anything on that opening from the first movie. None of the movies in the franchise have been able to replicate it and be as good, though. But I love that opening, the 10 minutes in the first movie. This one, it kind of drags a little bit. I just wanted to get on with the story and see where Sydney and all them were at and everything. That's the one thing that kind of holds this down a little bit, is that opening could have been better. But all in all, I think that this is a decent movie. I think it has a better score than the first movie. Marco Beltrami did a much better job with the score on it, and Denny Elfman helped a little bit in it, and I think that Hans Zimmer might have helped a little too with the score. But I think the score was a lot better in this movie than it was the first one, and I think it's entertaining and stuff. They amp up the meta humor a little bit in this one and everything. It doesn't really bother me, though. That's one thing I love about this franchise, is the meta stuff, so it doesn't really faze me. They blend it perfectly enough with the story. I just wish they could have done some things differently. Like I said, I think Dewey should have died, for sure, and everything. Yeah, I wish that Randy wouldn't have died. I wish it would have been Dewey instead. I know that sounds jacked up, because Dewey's a beloved character. He's one of the main characters of the franchise, but I felt like it just would have been better. Plus, like I said, I just like Randy more. But all in all, this is a pretty decent sequel to the first one. It's definitely not as good as the first, but it still is pretty good, and I think it's kind of underrated. A lot of people dismiss the Scream sequels and everything because none of them lived up to that first one, at least so far anyway. I can't speak for the new one yet, but really, it's kind of like with other franchises. You can't really expect something to live up to something as great and monumental as something that was groundbreaking like Scream. It's like same with Halloween. Like, everyone, if you go in there expecting the Halloween sequels to be as good as John Carpenter's classic, you're going to be disappointed and everything. But this one is still a pretty good movie. Wes Craven is once again really good at directing it, and Kevin Williamson's script is still pretty good. And like I said, for being fast-tracked and stuff, this movie could have been a whole lot worse. It could have been a really, really terrible movie, but I think they did a good enough job with it for being released as quick as it was. It's a pretty decent sequel. The kills could have been better, but that's just a complaint I have with the whole franchise. The kills in this franchise are just not super memorable or super great. They're fine for what they are, but they don't have that unique creativeness that other franchises have and everything. Although there were some pretty cool ones, especially that scene in the cop car. That was a pretty cool scene with some kills in there. But all in all, I think that Scream 2 is a good movie. It could have been better, but could have been a whole lot worse, and it's definitely better than a lot of people say it is. So I'd say I'd give it an 8 out of 10. It's entertaining and it's watchable. It does have some pacing issues, but it's fine for what it is. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you think of Scream 2, and hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day, everybody.